Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Soto here with the Autumn Windbags, back with another one. So, what are we talking about today? I just dropped a video yesterday. We dropped a video a couple days before that. What are we looking for here? Well, it's franchise tag season, so that's what we're going to talk about. But before we talk about that, I want to make sure everyone knows to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little notification button down here at the bottom. So whenever we drop a new video, we go live like I'm going right now. You guys are the first to know. You're able to hop on and comment, and let me know what you think. So, all right, now that that's done, that's out of the way. Let's talk about this. Excuse me. It's franchise tag season. What does the franchise tag mean? All right, I'm gonna go through it really quick. A very Cliff Notes version. All right. When a player is not under contract, okay, so their contract is fulfilled already, right? The teams have the ability to put a franchise tag on a player to either keep them with the team for 1 year or kind of keep them away from other teams so they can still negotiate. Now, there's two types of franchise tags. There's the non-exclusive and the exclusive, and they work a little bit different. Plain and simple, the exclusive tag is exactly that. It's exclusive. No other team can talk to that player except the team putting the franchise tag on the player. So if I want player X and we can't reach a contract extension or a new contract, and I don't want him to go anywhere because I really want him on my team, I can put the franchise tag on him, kind of like what we're going to do with Josh Jacobs, right? We don't necessarily want to give him top running back dollar because he's really only proven to be a top back for 1 year, and it was in a contract year. So let's see if we can do it again type of thing. And it also gives us a chance to negotiate a contract while he's still not negotiating with other people. The downside to that is it's a lot more expensive. If we give the exclusive franchise tag to Josh Jacobs, we don't even know how much it's going to be until after free agency because we have to pay the average of the top 5 running back, in this case, running back salaries for money, guaranteed money, cap hit. This season, it's all cap hit. Okay? So when you franchise tag a player exclusive, that means after free agency is over, you pay top dollar for that player. Now, the non-exclusive tag also has its plus and minuses. Non-exclusive tag means you take the average of the top 5 players at that position over the last 5 years. So it's going to be a lower number, right? But other teams can still negotiate with that player. What does that mean? So if, let's say, I tag a player on non-exclusive and another team really wants him, they can give him a ton of money and say, okay, now Raiders, you match this. If the Raiders do match it, then he stays with us. If we decide not to match that non-exclusive tag tender from another team for a contract, that team then owes us 2 first-round draft picks. So it's a little dicey. Most times, if you put a non-exclusive tag on a player, it's not going to be a quarterback, right? So, because most teams aren't going to give up 2 first-round draft picks for a player that's not a quarterback. It's just the way. Even Devontae Adams went for a first and a second, not 2 firsts. Excuse me, something in my throat. So that's how the franchises tag works. So the franchise tag season started last week. It's going to go into the 7th, and on the 7th is the last day a team's going to franchise a player. Now here's the kicker. A team can only franchise tag 1 player per season. What does that mean for us? If a team franchise tags a player, that leaves another player that may be good for us open in the open market. There's no right of first refusal or right of first match or anything like that with that current team. If we like him and we sign him, that's it. Done data. He's ours, right? And there's a couple players out there that might be in positions that we might want. All right. Before we start talking, let's see what we got going here. Well, let's see here. AV Mail says, if you were JJ's agent, would you tell him to sit out if he's tagged? Sitting out now is ridiculously expensive. So no, I wouldn't. I would just tell him to play. And it's not like in previous years, it's been bargained with the Players Association. If a player sits out, they get fined. I think it's like $50,000 per day, and then that escalates for different parts of the season. So if he sits out, he's going to lose a ton of money. Not only is he not going to get paid, but he's going to lose a ton of money. Now, here's the part about that. If you do get fined for sitting out, you can't get that money back. You have to pay it. Teams can't like wink, wink. Okay, we'll charge you. No. A lot of times before in the past, players have sat out because they didn't like their contract or like the situation or whatever. And then once it was resolved, the team kind of just like forgot about the fines. That's not going to be the case this year, moving forward until it's changed, basically. So if Jacobs still, if he sits out because he doesn't want to be tagged, he's going to get fined and he's going to lose that money, plain and simple. All right. Okay, so here's the first scenario. No, scenario number one. The Jacksonville Jaguars have tagged tight end Evan Ingram. It's a little over $11 million. It's a non-exclusive, but no one's going to give up 2 firsts for Evan Ingram, so he's not going to go anywhere. So a little over $11 million for a tight end. All fine and dandy. What does that mean for us? Well, there's another player who was tag eligible on the Jacksonville Jaguars in tackle, Juwan Taylor. Juwan Taylor is a good young tackle. He's 25 years old. Okay, he's going to head into his second contract, which is what we're looking for. That's what I want. I don't want guys in their third contract, fourth contract. Those guys are already older, already used up. I want a young guy who we can grow with and build with in the future. Juwan Taylor can be that guy. Some of his stats may be a little bit misleading. If you compare his stats last season to Jermaine Illuminor, he gave up less penalties in more snaps, so he's a better penalty-wise. He did give up more sacks, though. But here's the deal. He didn't get the help on his side that Jermaine Illuminor got. So Evan Ingram isn't going to be sitting there helping out on pass protection. This guy's out, in pass routes, right? So I really like this kid. He's massive. He's like 6'5". He went to Florida. He was second round pick out of Florida. The thing that you want to take a look at with him is good player. We can get him at a good deal because he's young. He's not one of the top elite guys, but he can turn into that. Every year he's gotten better. Every year he's progressed. And he's young. He's young. You can build with this. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to get younger. We're looking to build for the future. We're looking to have players that we can move forward with. And I think Juwan Taylor is one of those guys. All right. So now that we have Juwan Taylor, there's, a couple other things that we can look at too. Now, in Dallas, there's a player, Tony Pollard, who's a running back. Now, you might say, okay, what the hell is going on here? You might say, okay, well, running back, okay, they have Zeke. Zeke might be on his way out. So Tony Pollard may be the main back for the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of, talk out there that Zeke is he's shot. He's had too many hits. He's not, 22, 23 anymore. Even though he's not old, he's getting bigger as the years move on, and he's taking a lot of hits. He just doesn't have that pop that you need at a running back position. Tony Pollard definitely does. Got injured, but he's not injury prone. He got injured last year. It was on a tackle. It wasn't like, a freak thing. It happens when you get tackled like that and someone rolls over on your foot. So I don't think that the injury is a big concern for the Cowboys. Now, they are rumored to tag Tony Pollard because they want Tony Pollard, the Dallas Cowboys, want Tony Pollard to be their running back of the future. What does that leave for us? This may sound a little funky, but just follow me down the rabbit hole here. If the Raiders do decide to deal Darren Waller, there is a player available, young, productive, on the Cowboys. His name is Dalton Schultz. Now, is he as explosive and all that stuff as Darren Waller is? No. But he's still a good player. He's a good tight end. He was franchised last year by the Cowboys. So they're not going to franchise him again. I think they think Tony Pollard is a bigger piece to their offense than Dalton Schultz. But if these blocks fall into place, if the Raiders are looking to move on to get some kind of capital, some kind of cap relief, you can sign Dalton Schultz for less than $15 million per year. Plus, Dalton Schultz is only 26 years old. He's not 31 like Waller is. He's younger, still productive, better blocker, not as explosive in the pass game, but when you have Devontae Adams, you don't need, and it's nice to have, but you don't need to have another as explosive player like that. He's still a good pass catcher out there. So Dalton Schultz is a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but there does have to be some chips to fall in place before this happens. But we've heard that maybe Waller is not as committed to football as the regime wants him to be, that maybe he may have been one of those guys that, weren't looked at as a guy that was there all about football last year. Foster Moreau got a lot of run last year at the end of the year, got a lot of snaps, and he ate into a lot of Waller's snaps. I personally believe that Dalton Schultz is better than Foster Moreau. But that's up to you guys to decide, and ultimately up to the Raiders, front office to decide. But it is a possibility out there. Dalton Schultz, if the Raiders decide to move on from Darren Waller and get some picks back in return. Dalton Schultz, if the Dallas Cowboys do tag Tony Pollard, which they are said to do, they're going to do that, then they cannot tag Dalton Schultz, and we can sneak in and grab him. So that's another guy that we can get if the tags go the way that we think they're going to go. All righty. So, talked about Juwan Taylor. We talked about Dalton Schultz. This last one really isn't about a franchise tag, no franchise tag, none of that stuff. What this is about is coming home, a dream scenario. Now, I understand what I said about getting younger, getting players under control for longer, blah, blah, blah. I am talking about right now about righting a wrong, about righting an action that should have never happened, about the ego getting in the way of what should have been done. And I'm talking about none other than Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, back in black. The Chargers are looking to move a different direction on the defensive line. Mack has a nice little price tag on him. I believe he can get released with very little cap hit, very little dead cap money. If the Chargers do decide to move on from Khalil Mack, which I believe they are being rumored to do, I've heard it a couple times with a couple different websites and some nice ones on Twitter as well, that it's a great possibility that the Chargers are going to move on from Khalil Mack after 1 year. I don't know that necessarily it's the smartest move by the Chargers, but it's a great move for us because we don't have Chandler Jones for a long period of time. We can get Khalil Mack a lot cheaper than he would have been if we ever re-signed him when he was in his prime. He's a little bit older. He's not old, but he's a little bit older. Now, I understand what I said before. We need to get younger, right? We need to get younger. But look, this is just for me. If we can find a way to get Khalil Mack back in black, that would be amazing. So that's my little last second pitch here. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Who the hell knows? What I will say is this. If these moves happen the way that I think they might and that they fall the way I think they might, I think this is going to be a good thing for us. There's a lot of moves to be made, a lot of decisions to be made, and a lot to go into those decisions. It's not just black and white. We like this player. We don't like this player. Let's move on. No, it's who do you tag? Who don't you tag? Who are you further in negotiations with? Who's going to be cheaper? Who's going to allow you to get better at other positions? A lot of things to think about here. A lot of moving parts going into the offseason. Let's see what you guys have to say. Alex Torres, not agree at all. Okay. With what? With anything? All right. Omar, with the $5 super chat. Appreciate it, Omar. Thank you very much. Soto, we moved on from our quarterback. It's a rebuild whether we like it or not. Having said that, I think we should tag and trade Jacobs and Waller. We need draft. I mean, look, I wouldn't be mad at it. I think when you have a lot of look, here's the bottom line. You need talent to win, okay? Talented players, you have to pay. If you have a player that's one of the best players at their position, then you have to pay them like that, right? So, am I mad that we paid Darren Waller? I'm kind of like, little irked that we paid him a year early, but you have to take a look at this. Maybe the Raiders paid Waller a year early because they were anticipating having to franchise tag Jacobs. So they were keep giving themselves, because if you franchise Jacobs after this season and Waller is still here, like Waller may walk because someone may just give him a shit ton of money, right? This way, you did spend a little bit more money on Waller last year, but you're not spending a ton of money for those two positions this year. 15 for Waller, 10 and change for Jacobs. For two players that are really good at their positions, at the top handful at their position. For $25 million, that's not too bad. The move actually makes a lot more sense now, right? Before last season, I was like, what are you doing signing Waller so soon, right? But it does make a little bit more sense now that you look at those two players at the position, $25 million for a top running back in the league and a top 10 in the league. Yeah, that's not too shabby. Now, what to do if you feel like you can get similar production offensively and at the position with someone else? Got to think it. Last year, Darren Waller didn't play all that much. Offense looked okay, even with a quarterback that didn't play that well and may or may not have bought into the system. Who knows, depending on who you believe. But, Jacobs balled out. Devontae Adams balled out. So you want to take a look at who are the guys that are balling out. So is it just a one-year thing, a lingering effect of an injury from the year before? Who knows? What can you get for Darren Waller? And how much money do you save with Dalton Schultz? I don't know that Dalton Schultz gets near the $15 million a year mark in the open market. I don't think he's just that guy. I think we can get him for around the 10 million-ish, 9, 10, around there. Because is he a good tight end? Yeah, he's a good tight end. He's a solid tight end. He's better than Foster Moreau, I believe. But he's nowhere near, the Wallers, Andrews, Kittles, tight that remain nameless. He's nowhere near that. So, will it be a good move for us? It can be. But we've seen that we can still move the ball in this offense without a Darren Waller in it. And like AJ Hawk said, our very first guest, our very first show is players practice and play hurt because they don't want the coaching staff to get used to them not being there. Well, now we've gotten used to not having Waller, and look, it wasn't that bad. Okay? I think I'm going to still do pretty good without him. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see here. Mark Salter, trade Waller for what, first round and third round pick. Tag and trade JJ's first and defense stud draft. Okay, first off, we're not getting a first round pick for Darren Waller. A first and a third is damn near what we had to give up to get Devontae Adams, who is like the top 1, 2, 3, maybe wide receiver in the league. We're not getting a first and a third for Darren Waller. If we get a second round pick for Darren Waller, I would jump through hoops. I don't think so. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit more injury prone. A lot of the talk around the NFL is that he's not super focused on football. Who knows, man? I'm not even going to go into the other concerns. I think we're kind of past that. I'm kind of above mentioning that. But there are some concerns with Darren Waller. I don't think we get a first or second round pick for Waller. I think more than likely we get a third round pick. I think that's pretty fair for Darren Waller. Let's see here. Thoughts on Hendon Hooker? If we go defense at 7, I think if he's available at our third round pick, we should go for it. But I need to see more. He's coming off an ACL injury, which is not a huge deal because we probably wouldn't play him right away anyway. But you have to take a look at a couple things. Like I talked about in the previous video that I put out, how is he on the board? How is he at retaining information? How is he at spitting out the information that he knows, right? That's a huge thing. There's a lot of smart people that I know that are in positions that a lot lower than they should be because they cannot communicate. They cannot share the information or their point of view the way they want to because the communication isn't good. I'm not saying Hendon Hooker's is not good. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that has to come into play when you take a look at a quarterback, not just what he can retain, but how he can spit it back out at you and how he can explain it. Because he is going to have to know this offense inside and out to be able to kind of know where to tweak it, right? And that's the good thing. The thing that happened with Tom Brady is he's really smart. He was in the system for so long. He knew where the little tweaks were, where you can make little things, little adjustments here and there that maybe our old quarterback wanted to do right away before he really understood the system. So brains is a really big part of this, not just the physical tools. The physical tools is like a gimme. You have to have the physical tools, but the main thing is upstairs in between the ears. So yeah, it's possible, but it all depends on how he does. Let's see here. John Leon, I've been saying for 2 years to trade Waller. Yeah, we can. I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. Again, John Leon, good question here. With all the defensive ends in the draft, do you think we can do better in the draft? Yes. I think there's a lot of players at positions of need that we can, that we can go after. Now, here's one thing you have to take a look at. With the depth that the defensive line has, especially on the outsides, I don't know that we go first round pick. I think we go by far for what I feel our worst position group is in the secondary. I think if one of the top couple, and I think they will be, a Witherspoon, a Porter, a Gonzalez, if those guys are available at 7, we just take the best one we can. If we can't move back, if we can move back into the teens, we can still get one of those guys or an offensive lineman or one of these edge guys. I think we're still going to be in a very good position to get a really good impact player right away. But I feel, let me know what you guys think, but I feel our biggest position of need is in the secondary because we have Nate Hobbs, and that's pretty much it. Deron Harmon's getting a little older. He played really well, and I appreciate it. Hopefully we can bring him back. He's a little bit older. Trevon Merrick, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to Merrick. I think when he was asked to do a little bit more than what he did his rookie season, he just locked up, and Travis Kelce abused his ass. And Travis Kelce does that to a lot of players, but when he made me say his name twice, God damn it, Merrick. So when that tight end catches a touchdown pass on you and goes 2-5, no good, that's bad. And we need to get better play out of him. We need to get better play out of the position. Honestly, everybody but Hobbs in that secondary can go for all I care. Clone Avenger, Mac back would be fun. I agree. Mark Salter again, would you resign Stidham and grab a quarterback in second round? I don't know if I would grab a quarterback in second round. If we're not going to go with a top guy, I'd rather get a quarterback later in the draft. That's more of a developmental guy. We already have a developmental guy in Garbers. I don't know, man. If we don't go with a first round pick, at quarterback, I don't think our future quarterback is in this draft if we don't go first round. There's a lot of good quarterbacks available next year's draft. I don't know, man. We just have so many more holes, and I think we need to rebuild this team and not focus so much on getting the next quarterback right this second. If we find him later on in the draft, like a Hendon Hooker, for example, if we get him in the third round or whatever, great, that's amazing. And he turns out and he passes everything in flying colors, and he ends up being our guy, and he's the type of guy that we saw at Tennessee. Amazing. If not, we have other players that we can get next year. But I really want to solidify the rest of this team. I really want to solidify the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary. I want athletes at the linebacker position. I just want athletes. I don't remember if you guys saw my first mock draft. I drafted just a ton of athletes, just super athletes. Then you see these guys go into the combine this weekend, and they're charting through the roof, because that's what I'm looking for. You put players in positions to succeed, and you let their play and athletic ability take it from there. Gruden destroyed roster, trading Mack. A Gruden destroyed roster, period. Mack was part of it, but he just destroyed his roster. All right. 0 to 10. How much confidence do you have in this Las Vegas Patriot? Look, Caesar, just the way you asked that question made me know that you were going to say 0. The issue that I have is we have to let things develop. And because you didn't like it from the beginning, you're going into it with a negative mindset, and everything you don't agree with, even though it may have turned out well, you think it's a negative. Our offensive line wasn't terrible. We had a couple of pieces that, at least one big one that needs to be replaced. But overall, they performed really well. But we were killing the front office for not getting any offensive linemen. While they were like ranked 11 or something like that at the end of the year, they had the leading rusher in the NFL. Dude, there's some things this brass did well. Did they miss on the Chandler Jones pick? Yeah. Did they hit on the Deron Harmon pick? Yeah. You know, a couple of guys got hurt. Averett got hurt. You know, a couple of guys that they signed got hurt. But, you know, Brown, you know, from linebackers got hurt. It happens, man. But to say that you have zero confidence in this brass, you're just looking for negative things to find. And if that's how you want to go about your season and be miserable, then fine. Because I don't think anything that this team does is going to be good enough as long as the front office that's there is in place right now. Am I like 100% on board with these guys? No, I'm giving them a freaking chance. A lot of you guys aren't even giving them a chance. And if you don't want to give them a chance, that's your prerogative. But you know what? Take it somewhere else. I don't want to hear that crap here. Matt Marinovich. Just kidding. Matt Marinovich. Who's our best option at quarterback position? Who knows, man? It all depends on what direction they want to go. If you saw my last video, what Ziegler was saying was we need to pick a direction, pick what we want to do, and we need to stick to it. If that's draft a guy later this season, I mean, that's what New England did every year is they drafted a quarterback. Just about every year, maybe 2 out of 3 years, they do draft a quarterback either, you know, middle or late, and they had Tom Brady because they were using that guy to, you know, flip for picks. If we roll with Jarrett Stidham, I think that we can do that as long as we have an answer behind him. I don't think he's a long-term answer for us. He could, you know, turn out to be, you know, much better than we thought. Patrick Mahomes, his first season at the end of the year when he came in, he was turnover prone. Josh Allen, his first year was turnover prone. You know, it happens when you're haven't seen these live action reps early in your career, even if you have been a 4-year player, but you haven't played, those turnovers are going to happen. So what happens to Stidham if we re-sign him and he gets first team reps and first team snaps in practice every week and first team snaps in games? Does he get better? I'm sure he does. How much so? Who knows? Hot Buzz from Super Omnicron. Hot Buzz is the trade up with Arizona for CJ Stroud. I would not trade up for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is a decent NFL quarterback. He's an average, above average quarterback in the NFL. And I think we can win with that, but we need a better team around him. And to trade up to 3 from 7 is going to take a lot of capital. And we're not in the position to give up trade capital. We need, draft capital. We need to get more draft capital. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much it. That's all we got for today. Okay, everybody, I want to make sure that you guys know how much I appreciate you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification button, please do. I know I always say I'm going to give more content. I'm going to give more content. I hope you can see the last couple of days, I've been giving you guys more content. I'm trying to give you guys more content, and hopefully you guys like it. Make sure to tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell your mama's haters, tell your haters' mamas, tell everybody. Anybody you see with the Raider logo on, tell them, hey, man, do you listen to the Watch the Autumn Windbags? Hit them up. And until next time, guys, everybody have a good weekend and peace.